Hello, people, and welcome to another episode of RockerMike and Rob Rossi present the great Manny Grossman.
Manny Grossman,
How you doing, buddy?
What's up, guys? How you doing? Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Okay, let me tell our fans here who Manny is in case they don't know. The subject of tonight's podcast is going to be about the Son of Sam murders and the conspiracy around it. That's been for the last 45 years. Manny has been putting up these incredible YouTube clips, half an hour, 15-minute long clips of him going through all of the details about the murders. A lot of information you've taken from Maury Terry's book, The Ultimate.
Great book.
You've been on location at different sites, murder scenes. You've talked to survivors like Carl Denaro. And I just spoke to you a couple of weeks ago. Okay. Actually, you only started doing this about a month and a half ago, right?
Half ago.
Yeah. So I'm glad I found you when I did.
Thank you.
This is a subject for me that's always been a bit of an obsession. Okay. As a kid, the Son of Sam murders were happening in where I was living in Queens, when I was like 8 years old, and scared the shit out of me. Okay, I thought he was going to get my mother. My mother fit the perfect category. Dark hair, kind of long. My mother at the time and all that. So she was one of those people. She didn't go blonde, but she lightened her hair a lot.
Unfortunately, she was believing a fable.
Well, it was, but in those days, I mentioned this so many times. No internet, no alternative way of looking up information. You basically believed what you heard by your 6 o'clock news.
Exactly.
Okay? And there was another story there with the Son of Sam that people to this day still don't know about or know very little about. And we're here tonight. I got you on because I want you to, go through this with us and really explain it to people, because, people still believe the narrative that David Berkowitz acted alone, did all the shootings, and basically a 6,000-year-old dog told him to do it.
Right.
Okay. And we all know that that's not true. They saw it on the Spike Lee movie, which, forget it. Okay. And, well, let's get into it. I mean, my first question to you is really what got you to start doing this? Now, I know you've been interested in it for a long time, but what was the impetus to make you go out and really start doing this?
Well, to make me start doing it this time was basically, as I say in the videos, Cuomo-induced underemployment.
You mean the pandemic?
The pandemic.
Well, as we all know, Cuomo destroyed the psychology of everyone in New York. Well, most people who believed his BS, and put us all out of work. And because I was normal, I didn't want to wear a mask or any of that BS. Well, I got fired from most of my jobs, and I had a lot of time on my hands. And so I have to say, I spent the first, 9-10 months angry, shell-shocked. Like most people, absolutely no idea what I was going to do. And I was just scraping by. And just one day, 2 months ago, I said, F it. I'm going out today and I'm doing a show on Son of Sam. It was always an interest of mine. It was something that I heavily researched back in the old days. And one of the things that I did in my Cuomo-induced underemployment was watch a lot of YouTube. So I watched two YouTubers in particular. One was the Dollar Vigilante. I don't know if you guys know him. Great sort of anarcho-capitalist, very against the system, cool dude.
Okay.
And the other guy was Jason Goodman of Crowdsource the Truth. And both of these guys did what they called a walk and talk. I was just heavily influenced by them going around and just showing you sites and talking. It was a powerful medium, and one that was so simple that anyone could go out and do. So I just bought some equipment, and I went out and I just started it, and had no plans. I had no clue that there was a documentary coming out on Netflix, had no idea. It was just something to do in my time off to basically scratch an artistic itch. And so it's been a great run. And so that's basically how I got started.
Yeah, I mean, the Netflix series that's out, if anybody hasn't seen it, it's called Sons of Sam. Sons of Sam. And it's been very popular on Netflix. It's done very well. It's based on Maury Terry, his book from 1987 called The Ultimate Evil. Okay, now, I have to say, I read this book when it came out that year.
Very good book.
Okay, it's a fantastic book. It's a long read. It's almost, God, I think it's like 700-800 pages, something like that.
Although you can't put it down once you start.
No, you cannot. And it opened my eyes at the time, going back 34 years ago. Mm-hmm. But it kind of, it scared the hell out of me because it made you think, like, what was really going on with this cult, okay? And, how high did it go up in politicians or doctors, lawyers, judges, people like that. When you read that book, what always stuck with me is it had to go pretty high. Yeah. I'm just assuming. I got no facts, but because it how could you have something like that existing in Yonkers without people knowing about it?
Exactly, and as you guys may know, Yonkers is the focus of my particular interest in sonofsam. I first started out getting heavily into the process, thinking that Maury Terry, everything he said was the gospel truth. Although I always had my doubts about the ultimate.
I don't think it was that far of a code that it went to the masses. I think it was more localized.
Correct.
I really. Yeah, but he went into too much detail that it was like, all right, Maury, what the fuck are you doing?
The thing about the book, see, RockerMike, you're a little older than me, so like you got into the book in real time. I didn't actually read the book until 96 or 97, a couple years after I was actually into this whole story of the cult and had heard about it just locally. But when I first read The Ultimate Evil, of course, I loved it. Got heavily into it just like everybody, but there was one little sentence that always bothered me and made me wonder about Maury Terry and his accuracy, and that was when he was talking at the end of the book about these murders that had taken place in Long Island, and he said that he went out to the site and he saw the ritual site in Long Island and that it was satanic because there was the graffiti of the band Rush there. And of course, Rush,
I forgot about that. That's right.
And so Rush, of course, my favorite band,
satanic,
hardly satanic. And so I thought to myself, wait a second, what's going on here? And long story short, it has come out that basically all the California stuff, I call it garbage. Maybe a lot of people are getting pissed off at me for saying that, but let's just say that he was like sensationalizing stuff. And if it hadn't been in there, that book, if it had just been about Yonkers, it would have been gold.
Yeah.
Just to,
Manny, I want to ask you a quick question. Mm-hmm. You ever heard of Bohemian Grove?
I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't
Bohemian Grove.
Bohemian Grove.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. I think they were trying to do the same thing in Yonkers. I think all these people were part of a new Bohemian Grove, and that's what was in Yonkers. It wasn't a quote from somewhere else. But I think everybody was getting together. Let's do this and get rid. And it was like a new expansion of Bohemian Grove.
Well, we don't know if it was the same exact people, but like all these rich elitists, for some reason they all have the same sick fetishes. I don't know exactly what, but we're finding out, and it's all shadowy now. But we're finding a whole network of people up in Yonkers that included lawyers, judges, politicians, doctors. Who are all into basically sex with kids, and not just your garden variety sex with kids, if you can call it that, but talking about going into the middle of the woods, pouring blood all over them, peeing all over them, and raping them. And this was going on, of course, in Untermeyer Park. I have stories going back to the 1950s,
right,
of people going into Untermeyer Park and this happening. So. Yeah, if it was happening in Bohemian Grove, no doubt. I'm an old school conspiracy head. I've known about Bohemian Grove since the 90s.
Okay.
But whatever was happening in Yonkers was a world away. And, I don't conflate the two or ever equate the two.
Let me ask you something. You know, I went to Untermeyer Park last weekend for the first time. I've never been there before.
Okay.
And I don't know. I have a pretty good kind of sixth sense about things. You know, I can usually tell when something is kind of under something creepy.
Right.
And I got that buzz there. And not just because of what I knew. Okay. I'd never been there before. All right. But just there is something about that place.
Absolutely.
You could feel it when you're there. And then you got to me, I always wonder, like, why do people pick like that? Pick certain places.
It could be the energy that you're talking about that's there. One thing that I always noticed about Untermeyer Park, and it's strange because a lot of commenters have emailed me privately talking about the same phenomenon. You never hear animals in Untermeyer Park.
No.
You never hear birds chirping. You never hear squirrels. You never hear any of that kind of stuff. And there's just something very eerie and, in my opinion, evil about that place. Of course, started by Samuel Untermeyer. I don't know too much about him other than he was involved with the Federal Reserve. So right there, he's evil in my book.
Yeah, I got to agree. And then he bought the estate from it was the Greystone estate before that.
Yeah.
Right.
And, you know, you got to, you know, if you trace it back, the history of these places. And when I was there the other day, I kind of noticed something, how things were lined up in a certain way. Okay. You know, down by the carriage house, the gatehouse there, where a lot of, you know, cult activity took place. If you go a little further down towards that blockhouse with the 44 graffiti on it, okay, right. If you look back up that hill, it's almost a straight line to that. I called it the bird cage. It's
the eagle's nest.
The eagle's nest, right? Yeah. You know, and it just seems like these things mean something. Okay.
There could be some geometry happening there. I mean, you know.
No, but guys, you know what it is?
What's that?
It's a devil worshiping circle that people don't know. It's the whole circles or the star. That's why if you go from this side, you got a straight angle. If you go from this side, you got to see, and it all makes the star. It makes the.
Well, I don't know if it makes a star, Rob, but
it makes you like if you look at it, you'll be like, "What the fuck?"
Well, there's no doubt that these occultists put all sorts of sacred geometry. They make hidden lines. Yeah. They do all sorts of symbolism with numbers, but that's a little bit beyond my pay grade. I'm dealing with the sickos and the Boy Scouts and
no, but I said when you looked at it, if you looked at it far away, you're like, what the hell? Because, like, you know what? People don't realize shit. And you know what? Like, Yanka was through with Santeria.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time.
You know what Santeria is?
Oh,
the Spanish?
Yeah, of course.
Yanka has a lot of Santeria.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's like what came in after the Satanism of the 80s and the early 90s. Then the Santeria started coming in. And
yeah. And the only tell you because my mother killed a goat. Bought a goat in one of these places where you could buy a goat, killed it.
Yeah.
And everybody drank the blood, but it was Santeria. It was the devil, which was the whole thing. And my mother is one of the Santeras.
Yeah, it's something different. I mean, I don't know too much about it. All I know is that every now and then I would come across roosters and chickens and goats.
They kill roosters, chickens.
You notice how, you know, with paganism, there's that the elements: fire, water, air. Okay. Am I missing something? Is it fire, water, air? One other thing I can't remember. What's the other element?
Earth, maybe.
Earth, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And right there, you have pretty much all that except fire. Okay, but they made their own fire.
They made their own fire.
Yeah.
Every night they were.
You know, you have the old Croton aqueduct. And that's representative of what. And if you look at, and this was in Maury Terry's book, and it was mentioned in the Netflix series, there's a lot of water references in the Son of Sam letters.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, when he says, you know, hello from the gutters of New York City and hello from the sewers of New York City. You know, when people in, I'm sure you know this, to the old Croton Aqueduct as the gutters.
Yeah.
The gutters, yes.
So
And they even had graffiti on that thing that you saw with the 44.
Yeah.
In the old days, and I saw back in the early 90s the remnants of it. It had a thing that said NGP on it, which meant Near Gutters Path. And you read about that in Maury Terry's book.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. So many clues were in those letters, especially the later ones. I mean, he was practically trying to give himself away.
He wasn't practically. He was saying John Wheaties, and all you had to do was look in the Yonkers.
But you know what? That wasn't.
I'm sorry?
That was not his writing. That was not David's writing.
Not his
It was
writing.
somebody else that wrote it.
Correct. I'm working right now on a new video that I'm going to be producing this weekend, probably come out Monday or so, and it's going to be on the Carr family. And I'm finding that they call them the little letter writers. The Carr family love to write letters. Let's just put it that way. So I have a bunch of letters that they wrote to the newspaper we're going to show. And they particularly liked writing letters to authority figures. So, between that, the penchant for them to write letters, and as well as the fact that there was a design studio in that house, a graphic design studio in that house, my money is on Mike Carr being the author of those letters. Just in studying that family, Mike Carr was definitely the intellectual of the family.
Yeah.
John Carr was basically a drugged out homicidal maniac. His brother was too, but Mike was a lot smarter, it seems. So we're going to be talking about that in the new video coming up. It should be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Let me ask, could we kind of break down a little timeline here for a few minutes of the murders, okay? Because some people think that Berkowitz did all of these shootings, whether it was people that died or not, but they think he did them, and he actually owned up later on, okay, 2 of the events.
The 2 of them,
yeah. And like, for instance, the first shooting was July 29th, 1976. The Donna Lauria, Jody Valenti one. Okay.
Right, which we showed those 2. I did a video of those 2 shooting sites.
Yeah, you went to that site. I remember. Now, Jody Valenti survived. Donna Lauria did not. That was in the Bronx, and Berkowitz admitted to that.
Right.
Okay. Then, fast October 23rd, 1976. That was the Carl De Niro, Rosemary Keenan shooting, okay, in Flushing, Queens, near a bar called Peck's.
Yeah.
Which I actually remember that bar a little bit. It was an old man bar, like it's described in your video.
Yeah,
definitely a category. The Flushing, Long Island Railroad Station. Yep. Now, in that one, both of them survived. Carl De Niro was shot in the head in the car. But the description of the shooter didn't match Berkowitz for that.
There was no description of the shooter in the Carl De Niro case.
You're right.
Yeah, because both him and Rosemary were facing forward, and the shooting came from behind, and they had no clue what was happening, and they just hightailed it out of there.
Right.
So the De Niro shooting actually has very little forensic evidence.
But at that point, they, the police didn't make any connection between the 2, other than a .44 caliber was used.
Yeah, but
even that they didn't. They still didn't connect
right before the murder started happening. So it's like early.
Right.
They don't know what's going on.
They didn't connect everything until March 10th of 1977. So I don't remember exactly how many shootings took place before that.
It was one. It was 1, 2, 3, 4. After the 5th shooting, okay, which was the Vosker right, I can't pronounce it. The shooting in Forest Hills, Queens.
Wow.
That's the one where the girl, it's depicted in Sam movie, the Summer of Sam movie, where she puts the books in front of her face.
Right.
Okay, that was the one where she tried to block it.
Right, which by all accounts happened. And of course, Carl De Niro brought up a good point in his book. why was she carrying her books if she had a bag with her? Like, what was up with that? So anyway, that's a whole other issue.
Right. Okay. Now, that was on March 8th, 1977, and that was already the fifth event. Okay. You had the one in Floral Park out on Long Island, which is Queens, Long Island, right on the borderline. That one, they survived. But one of them, this is the Massey Lomino shooting. Lomino ended up being paralyzed. And that one, if I remember right, the description was different than even the Donna Lauria Valenti one.
Correct.
Right.
Well, let's remember, Berkowitz did Donna Lauria. He admitted to it. So the sketch of that murderer was Berkowitz, and it does look like Berkowitz. But the sketch in Lomino de Masi out in Queens was clearly the spitting image of John Wheaty's car.
Right. It was a guy with a hair parted on the side, very straight hair, where Berkowitz's hair was a little curly.
He had a Jew fro.
It wasn't. Did they knew that it was? She's part of the code, and they just put her on the list to get killed.
Who?
Who you talking? Donnie?
Donna Lauria.
Donna Lauria. Was this? I think she knew those people that. I think she knew David's people.
Right. The word in Maury's book and the story as it's been told is that Donna Lauria was at the Peachtree discotheque in New Rochelle, which members of the Carr family used to go to. And somehow or other, she was either talking about the group or knew about the group, but there was somebody who called in and said, who was reported to have said, Donna has 1 week to live.
Wow.
Yeah, but all these.
Do you think that's true? Do you think that's true? What do you think?
Honestly, the more I look into this, the less I know. Some people are saying that none of the Son of Sam incidents were Son of Sam incidents. They were all mafia hits. I mean, I don't know. We know that Berkowitz admitted to a few. We know he got the parking ticket at the last one.
Oh, yeah.
But, quite a few people are trying to make connections between the victims.
What can you tell me about the yellow buggy that was always in a lot of these killers? The yellow buggy, even your video, there was that Cadillac or whatever that was in.
Oh, I kept on seeing old Cadillac.
What the hell?
Yeah, I thought it was like some sign from either sign from above or sign from below. I wasn't sure which.
I got to work for you there. That's how I got to call you.
I know.
Go there.
I can imagine. I can understand one old Cadillac, but two, and they were both white. Yeah, it was very weird.
That was great. But the other shooting, Alexander Asau and Valentina Suriani in the Bronx. A lot of people don't realize that was only a few blocks away from the first shooting.
Correct.
Gloria Valenti was only a few blocks away. Now, Berkowitz owned up to both of those.
Right.
All right. Now, was the Bronx kind of considered his territory, his area?
That's what he says in the book, that he was responsible for the Bronx. And, of course,
wow,
he grew up in the East Bronx, right in that area. And one of the things that was great for me going out and doing these was because this was the first time I was in these areas as well. I was bringing you guys, along sort of with me for the ride. And I had no clue that these sites were so close to each other. I had no clue that they were in the same general area where Berkowitz was familiar with and grew up in and knew all the highways and streets and roads and everything.
Right.
So, yeah, it makes sense that he was going to do the East Bronx, and those were the only shootings in the Bronx. But maybe he was like me. As a Bronx boy, he couldn't navigate Queens. So,
I know. Queens is tough. Places, drive, lanes, roads, all that. The other thing, too, is now March 10th, 1977, Mayor B at the time and the NYPD held a press conference.
There wasn't mayor ever.
And that kind of was the first time they were putting the pieces together that they got something related. They didn't call it Son of Sam at that point. It was just a .44 caliber killer.
Correct.
But after the Asau Suriani shootings, that's when Son of Sam started, because he left a letter at the scene
Correct.
across the street.
And it's known in the SOS community. It's known as the Borelli letter because it was
Right.
addressed to Captain
The what
Frankie,
letter?
the NYPD.
Right.
What was that letter called? What was it called?
What's it called again? I'm sorry.
Borelli, B-O-R-E-L-L-I.
Borelli, right. The Detective Borelli, right?
Correct, though.
Right. Then May 30th, 1977, Jimmy Breslin receives the letter. Jimmy
Correct.
Breslin being the famous or infamous reporter for the Daily News.
Right.
Why
And
did he get a letter?
he got a letter mailed to him.
That's an outrage.
All right.
It was mailed to him from Englewood, New Jersey.
Right. He went to mail it to him. Right.
Wow.
Well, we don't know who went
Well,
there.
we don't.
I'm
Right. We don't know.
finding out that the cars had some relatives in New Jersey, so we're parsing all that out as well.
It's amazing how it's like this whole web.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I don't understand how anybody could worry about a nationwide conspiracy when a 5-block radius of Yonkers is hard enough to deal with. The tangled webs of people, the relationships, the bars, the saloons, the taverns, the luncheonettes, all these people who were kind of all connected in this seamy underbelly of Lake Avenue. Just that's challenging enough. So, that's why I'm only concentrating in my work on the Yonkers angle, and the Bronx as well, New York City, right? But I don't get into the whole nationwide thing.
No, I think it's too much of a stretch and it's too indirect. Dealing it like
the whole story with the son of Sam. There's so many people. There's so much shit. There's so much legacy. So much history. We could talk about this for the next 20 years, but where are we going to figure out who did what they did?
But Manny's talking about Yonkers, and that's
the way it started.
That's where it starts, and that's where it should end in a way.
The thing is, Rob, we kind of already know who did everything. That's the thing. Maury Terry actually solved this case in about 1980, 1981.
But
the problem was
nobody did anything about it. Nobody's really nobody really got arrested and they checked. And half of the people that did it are gone.
Yeah, a lot of people met ill fates without having to get arrested. The Carr brothers both were basically jelly by 1980.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
But one of the things we're finding now that Maury Terry has passed, and I don't want people to misconstrue what I'm saying. If it wasn't for Maury Terry, I wouldn't be sitting right here talking to you. Maury Terry was the king. He was the man. He was his greatest achievement was, of course, exposing this in the first place. But nobody is a god, all right? And nobody is infallible. And what we're finding now is that Maury left out so much of the Yonkers information out of the book. And in reality, really didn't even give us the real story and give us a much of a depth of the story, despite how good the book was.
Wow.
And so that's what we're trying to do now. We're trying to get access to Maury's files. We're trying to confirm things that we kind of already know. Like I said, this case was solved. I know names, all right? I can't get into them in the show. But I know who shot this person. I know who shot that. I know who was...
Don't get into that. No reason to review that.
Right. And the thing is, Maury was rightly scared. And back in 1980, these were young men.
Yeah.
Well, not young, but middle-aged men. But now they're all old or dead. So now's the time, hopefully, that we can start getting more stories out. And now that Maury Terry is gone, he's not such an overpowering presence over the whole thing, acting as essentially a gatekeeper.
I get when I talk to you, I get this weird Jim Morrison vibe from you.
Oh, don't say that. Jim Morrison was a rich boy. He was he was an
I get that vibe, you got that look, you're a rock. You want to be a rock star. You got that look, you got this weird, it look.
He's a Rush fan. He's a Rush fan.
Yeah, this is Geddy Lee.
Geddy Lee look. I got you.
But you were walking with your glasses and telling stories. I said, this guy's a fucking rock star.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. But now all I am is a dude from the Bronx who woke up one day and decided he needed to do some artistic work. And I knew, listen, I had started my YouTube channel doing gardening videos because that's what I do.
You know what? You're kind of very for that. The garden was fantastic.
It was. I
don't
watched
know-
some of it.
I don't know why you want to get rid of that, because you had a gift.
Well, let me tell
That
you,
garden stuff is huge.
nobody watched the gardening stuff. I got 4 views in like two or 3 months, but pretty much within 3 days after my first Son of Sam video, I realized, all right, people are much more interested in this.
Yeah.
So I decided to really push it. But when I first started, I wasn't part of a team. I was just going out there talking about the ultimate evil.
Yeah.
But after the second video is when I started to meet Carl, and I started to meet my team of Jess D and John Mitchell. And we started to compare notes and talking about names that we had come across over
Wow.
the years. And we just had the best experience doing it, that we all formed this amazing creative team. And then they started feeding me all this new information about Yonkers. And
Yeah.
my
Wow.
videos have been getting more deep and deep, is because I'm just getting access to this stuff.
Yeah.
Short stories.
Any death threats?
Hmm?
Have you got any death threats yet?
No, I have gotten one guy who called me that he said some weird stuff that could be construed as a threat. But when I asked him, hey man, is that a threat? Like, he goes, no, I would never hurt him, man. But
Yeah, doing this work, it's not like you could be getting death threat or people, because there's people that's trolls that love to follow it. They're just people that, like me, I love trolls. I make them cry.
I love I stay above the fray. Once I started realizing that there were some negative haters out there, I stopped participating in all the social media.
Yeah.
All the
There's always
Yeah.
haters.
because you can't feed it. That's what they want. They want your attention. But I have heard rumblings of people who are very pissed off at me because they feel like, who is this dude who came in here? Who does he think he is? People have like an ownership over Son of Sam, which I think is kind of weird. But, look, we're just trying to fill in the gaps that Maury left us. If he had told us these stories, I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah. Let me ask you something, Manny. Maury Terry was from Yonkers, and you're 100% right with he left a lot out of the book.
I think he
Do you
also
think
loses
think that was something that maybe was hitting close to home for him, or something even he was unable to acknowledge that it was happening under his own nose?
And no, quite the opposite. We have in Maury's own words. If the audience wants to watch the video of mine called "A Requiem for Karen Wahlstrom,"
Yes.
we have in Maury's own words that in 1960 he was hearing about John Carr, specifically that name, John Carr, with another fellow whose name is Scout. Now we know who Scout is. I'm not going to say his name.
Right.
Scout was allegedly another member of the 22 Disciples of Hell. And
Yeah.
Maury Terry was hanging out, seeing them together in 1960, and they were talking about witchcraft. So Maury knew all of this going back to at least 1960.
Yeah, it goes back that far. Now the another shooting, the second to last one, was the Sal Lupo, Judy Placido one at the disco inside the Office Disco. Now, I just want to bring up a point to our listeners. I found this fascinating, and I know you know this. In the Son of Sam, there's references to demons and stuff, and one that they mention is Behemoth.
Correct.
Okay, and the demon Behemoth is in the occult, is referenced by an elephant.
Wow.
Okay, represented, I should say, by an elephant. I think there's other representations, but one is an elephant. And Latin for elephant is Eliphas.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's right in front of you. I don't think you have to be a rocket
There's no
scientist,
writing on the wall.
to see.
Yeah, I mean, you could spend an entire video series just on the letters themselves, for sure.
Yeah.
And the letters are highly interesting. There's one in the Borelli letter. There's one piece of it that's starting to get a little bit more attention. It's the first letter, and there's a line that says, Z, the letter Z. Z women of Queens are the prettiest of all. And some people are starting to speculate that is in reference to a 1974 murder of a woman named Leslie Zaret, Z-A-R-E-T. who was found, unfortunately, raped and strangled in Queens, not too far from, I believe, where the Denaro shooting site was.
Right.
And,
Wow.
They said that Berkowitz witnessed that murder. So, we're trying to figure out all that kind of stuff. I mean, listen, one thing I'm finding out about this case is that you open up one door, there's a million webs right there, and you could spend all your time just on that.
Right. Now, the last,
was that girl, the girl in Sioux Falls, the one that they got in the church?
Oh,
that's
the church. That's the process murder.
Yeah. What do you think about that case? Is that you just?
I don't think anything of it. I think Maury Terry stretched.
It's Perry.
It's Perry. I think that was more. I think that was him trying to get more news, and he didn't even need that. But supposedly, Dave, it was
Maury
Dave.
Terry should have kept his local to
that's why he did it.
Right.
Yeah. Now the last murder, I guess is the most focused on all of them in some ways. That's the Robert Violante and Stacy Moskowitz murder down by Shore Parkway in Bath Beach.
Mm-hmm.
That was on July 31st, 1977. You're going to head down there, right?
Yeah, we're going to head down there, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a forensic recreation of Maury Terry's timeline. He has that murder timeline starting at 1:30 in the morning or 1:15 in the morning, with various witnesses seeing the yellow Volkswagen, various witnesses seeing David Berkowitz somewhere else. So what we're going to do is we're going to film all those scenes, and we're going to sort of prove Maury Terry right or wrong. Personally, I think we're going to prove him right, because that was his most airtight case in proving that Berkowitz did not do all of the shootings.
I mean, I won't go into the whole thing because you could see it on the Netflix series. You're going to cover it. It's in Maury Terry's book, which everybody should read.
Yeah, it's a great book.
But I will say this: if Berkowitz did that murder, he would have had to been like a track star, because there was no way he got time to do it.
Not only a track star, Mike, but he would have had to have lose 30 pounds.
Lose 30, right? He was a big guy.
Right, and gain it all back within about 2 minutes.
No way the guy
hairstyle.
was running a few blocks like that in 2 minutes,
I can't completely change his hairstyle and change his wardrobe.
Right.
So, yeah, it was pathetic. The cops did a horrible job with Son of Sam. A lot of people knew what was going on. I did an interview with Detective Hank Sinati.
Sinati, yeah.
Yeah, who was a character in the book. And Sinati is, getting on in age a little bit, and I think that he was being a little cagey with me in the interview as well. But we're hoping that we get another follow-up interview, because he was another a detective in the NYPD who did not believe that the Son of Sam murders were committed just by Berkowitz. And furthermore, he knew about this before he met Maury Terry. So,
Yeah.
I definitely think they were totally murdered, because they definitely got killed. But the whole reason is why? What the hell happened? Why did they tell David, we're going to kill your mother if you do this killer, or you got to take the fall for this? Because that's where it lies. Did this guy just take a bunch of people and went to jail?
Yeah, he was the ultimate patsy, as Josh Zeman said in a podcast that he just did today with a guy named Jericho. David Berkowitz took the fall for everybody, because, as he said, he did 2 of them anyway. He might as well have protect his family from further harm.
Right.
Wow.
I want to shift gears a little bit. Tell us about what went on possibly in Van Cortlandt Park at Frankie's Castle.
Well, Frankie's Castle is a very interesting spot in Van Cortlandt Park. It's another one of these aqueduct houses. It's the exact same thing that you find near Untermeyer Park. The same structure and everything, except it's located in Van Cortlandt Park. And it was the scene of the most hardcore and brutal satanic rituals that the cult employed. A lot of raping, a lot of murdering took place in there, and unfortunately of young kids. And it happened for many, many years. So, yeah, we went and we checked out Frankie's Castle. This was about a week ago. I can't believe how many views that video got. That thing got like 4,000 views in very little time.
That's
So
crazy, man.
there's clearly like an interest in this. It's been a blast for me to do, of course, because well, I enjoy it just like the crowd does. So we're kind of all in this together, and that's what I think one of the reasons why people are responding so positive.
It's so scary about it.
It is. I mean, it encompasses quite a few years. You're saying it goes back possibly to the 1950s.
Well, we're getting information it could possibly go back to the 1920s. Some doctors that we know about in Yonkers.
Well, I mean, Untermeyer too. We don't know a lot about him. Okay, and you know, why did he buy that estate? Why did he pattern it after, you know, like the Hanging Gardens of Babylon and the Sumerian design and stuff like that? There's a lot. When you're in the park and you look at that one section where they have those hanging plants and they have those small. My buddy the other day were Chinese, but they're like little lions. They look almost like dogs. Okay, and one has its mouth open and the other one has its mouth closed. They're not exactly. And I'm looking at them. You know what I'm seeing? I'm seeing like Pazuzu from The Exorcist, man. It's like that kind of design, you know?
Yeah, these Federal Reserve guys, they were a sick bunch. I mean, you got one up the street named Boyce Thompson from Untermeyer Park. And that was another spot that we exposed in my video series, that was another place where the rituals were taking place. And he was even weirder. You know,
I saw your clip. It was a strange mansion there that you were on the outside. You said it had a pool on the second floor.
Correct.
That's strange.
Yeah, it was this huge pool. It was unbelievable. And I was told that that's where they used to hang people in rituals.
Wow. In an empty pool, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, that's another thing that people don't realize is that, you know, Yonkers, particularly in those years, had all these abandoned spots where kids could go and get into mischief. And not only kids could go and get into mischief, but adults could go and do all sorts of stuff in the middle of the night that they maybe couldn't have gotten away with in their homes. So they had the mansions, they had Untermeyer Park, which was in a complete state of disarray. I got a newspaper article from 1964, and the headline is "Dope and Drug Orgies Take Place in Untermeyer Park." Right, so 1964, this is happening.
They knew it.
There's something up with Lake Avenue. That's my focus. I couldn't care less about the process or Manson. In fact, I think Manson's a psyop anyway, personally.
Now, what I noticed is that in some of your videos, and I like that you do this, you make an appeal, okay, to people. You've been saying how, you know, a lot of years have passed. If you want to tell the truth, now's the time. Clear your conscience, things like that. There are people out there, you know, they're still alive. They might be 75, 80 years old, but they know.
Exactly.
Okay.
The age group is about 72 to 80 years old. They're on their last legs. I'm hoping that someone comes out. We are getting quite a few testimonials from people. I get emails every day from people from that neighborhood. And we got some great ones talking about Karen Wahlstrom and talking about various priests in the neighborhood who were notorious pedophiles. A lot of stuff that I haven't released to the public yet.
There's a ton of pedophiles.
That neighborhood in Yonkers, that's keeping me busy, man. God bless anybody who wants to look at the process, the mafia, all that kind of stuff. But I'm focusing on Lake Avenue.
I think if you start looking at that, you're just going off the wrong, you know.
He had a black van that was taking kids.
The black van in Yonkers, right?
I heard about a black van in the Bronx that was taking kids. But one of the things we're finding is that these people are, and I'm finding this out today even, these higher ups in the cult in Yonkers were not all, but quite a few of them were associated with child welfare charities, and specifically ones where they imported kids from Latin America. Now, this is the 1950s, 1960s. So, like, who were these kids? Are there any documentation on them? What happened to them when they got here? Was this whole thing just a front to get access to kids? So, yeah, there's a lot of shady stuff that happened in Yonkers. we're even getting
An orphanage they used to steal from. There was an orphanage they used to take the kids from too.
Right next to Untermeyer Park. There was
Right
an
next to
orphanage.
Untermeyer Park, yeah.
And
nobody.
people got to remember, this was the era when there were no surveillance cameras, there was no computerized records, nothing, none of that. And so it was very easy to do these types of things, to, unfortunately, to children.
Yeah. Okay, so let's wrap things up. All
Okay.
right. And I want to thank you for coming on.
You're very welcome.
And before you go, though, I wanted to, when we spoke yesterday, we had a great conversation on the phone, and you mentioned you wanted to make a special appeal to somebody.
Yes.
Can you do it?
Yes, I want to make an appeal to Ace Frehley. Now, Ace, much respect, Ace. Love you. And I'm not saying you were a member of the Son of Sam cult. That's not what this is about. But Ace, we know you grew up on Mosholu Parkway. We know you grew up there in the 60s and early 70s. Mosholu Parkway was right next to Van Cortlandt Park. We know that you were involved with the Ducky Boys, with some gangs.
Yes.
Hey, Ace. Hey, we'd love to get you on my show. We'd love to see what you know about all the deviants in Van Cortlandt Park. Even if it's not necessarily about the Satanists, we want to know about all the stuff that was taking place in Van Cortlandt. But Ace, you probably know something, so we want to hear from you.
And Ace Frehley from KISS is going on tour with Alice Cooper in the fall, and I'm going to be there. So if you see me, Ace, let me know what's going on in Van Cortlandt.
Hook me up. Hook me up.
Hook me up.
Now, you need to call this kid. You got a great show. You got a great thing going on. Now, you remind me of, to me, when it's like a rock star.
Well, thank you.
Love your work.
Far from it.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you, and stay in touch. And remember what I said. And if you need any help, okay.
We'll
Yeah,
definitely keep you in mind,
we got
RockerMike.
a lot of people. If you want to do something, anytime, let me know. You want to come on the show because you got new evidence? Let's do it.
Thank you. Well, let's keep the conversation open for sure. This was fun.
It'll be like breaking news from Yonkers, okay?
Yeah, we could do that. We could talk. Definitely.
Hey, Maddie, I got a few cops out there. Ever needed some of those guys? Names.
They were what? I'm sorry, you broke
No,
up there.
I know a few cops that are relatives that work out there. If you ever needed some help, they'll take it serious.
Cool. All right. Well, maybe one of these days I'll need it.
Okay.
These are my guys, so
Right.
trust me, that they get fucked up.
All right. Good luck. We'll be watching your videos, okay?
Thanks,
Manny Grossman channel on YouTube, buddy.
Yeah, we became subscribers. We're subscribing to your channel.
I appreciate it.
See what you're gonna do
Thank you,
next.
guys.
All right. Take care.
Okay, bye.